Welcome to Specifically About Quality, the podcast by Qualitywise, where we explore the principles, practices, and challenges of modern quality management. We will discuss key concepts, share real-world examples, and bring clarity to the complexities of quality management. In each episode, we provide insights for quality managers and professionals, helping you lead with confidence, ensure compliance, and drive continuous improvement. This podcast is here to support your work and your impact. Clear, focused, practical. Let's get into today's episode. Welcome to Specifically About Quality by Qualitywise. I'm Agata Lewkowska, a quality management system expert with years of experience in the automotive industry, and this podcast is hosted together with Christopher Scott.
Hi, I'm Christopher Scott, an expert in quality assurance and operational excellence in the automotive industry as well. Today, we're tackling a situation that is very close to my heart that many quality professionals sweat: customer audits.
Oh gosh, yes. How do you prepare for one without panicking? We'll break it down into maybe 5 practical steps, share our examples, and explain what auditors look for, not just on paper, but in behavior. Let's hear today's episode.
Let's start with what customers really look for, or what I would probably look for as a customer, and I have been a customer many times in my career. On paper, it's compliance, procedures, traceability, and more operational calibration records, the general things for the QMS. But unofficially, they're looking for confidence, consistency, and clarity in your team as well. It's not just about the auditor or the quality management professional, it's about the organization as a whole.
Exactly. And let me just share my experiences when I'm auditing. I am that kind of an auditor who sees if the team is simply prepared and open because they have confidence that audits is just confirming what we normally do, not just what we prepared for the audit just to pass it. So as an example, I conducted a readiness audit before third-party auditors arrived for one of my customers in the automotive sector. I was quite convinced by the team's work attitude and confidence that they were mature enough to pass the IATF audit because they were fully understood what was expected from the system perspective. And in this particular situation, I'm thinking about working with even special characteristics. The product was quite difficult and actually having safety features, so special characteristics were everywhere. And that's why I paid more attention to the people, a way of working. And really, honestly, I could see during even the audit, while interviewing, asking questions, that they are really prepared. They were fully aware what those special characteristics are, and they were exactly working according to this, what was designed in their workplace. Did you have the same situations, Christopher? You're auditing suppliers, so?
Yeah, I am also a very similar regard. We work together. My mindset is I'm looking for the confidence the supplier can give me in an answer. It's not a scripted answer. It needs to be genuine, organic, truthful. And it doesn't look like the answer was made on the day. So when you ask them the question, in a probing question, because we need to remember that customers and IATF and ISO 9000 third-party certification can probe. They can go deeper. If they have specialist knowledge in your process, they are allowed to do that, and it's within the scope of the audit. They won't just check the clause. They'll look a bit deeper. And if they don't get an answer that is exactly to the requirement, they'll then ask you more. And if you struggle to give them the answers, it means you're not ready. So it's not just about having perfect documents. It's about knowing your process, really owning your process and being a subject matter expert in that and how you make your products. That's what we mean by audit readiness culture. You're ready for the audit at any point in time. It shouldn't be a surprise when they come to your site to check. So just to give an example, what would happen when I change an operator? So let's say an operator on the day is the main person who does it for the last 5 years, and you need to change someone for training reasons or sickness or because of polyvalence, so they need to be skilled. You need to update that in the core competencies. You need to have a training plan, some sort of job observation to be able to buy off that person can do the work in the first place. It's not acceptable for any auditor, and I'm sure you can agree, Agata, for someone to say they've got a degree in engineering, so therefore they can do the job, or they've been working in the company 10 years, but they've never done that operation, so they can do the job. You have to prove as an organization they are competent and they can do the work and they've been approved to do the work. That's the key message.
Close to this, I find ownership. So ownership for specific tasks or system process elements is also visible and important, yes? So if the team, for instance, blames the system or says, that's not my job, I would say this is the red flag, yes? And let's maybe talk about those red flags, Chris. So about the risks.
Yes, that's a great segue. So the common ones that instantly put auditors on red alerts. So what would you say would be the first one in terms of your view?
Let's just concentrate on the production process audits because we are talking about audits today. However, we know that there can be manufacturing process audits, product audits, and system audits. But we would like to talk only about the production processes, which are quite specific, yes? So we're on the shop floor now, and here there can be a lot of things to prove, yes? First of all, the red flag would be the documentation, if this is outdated, incompleted, not under document management, like we defined in our quality management system. But also connected to the documents are records. So this can be our red flag number 2, yes? If they're simply missing or maybe, again, they are inconsistent. Generally, many records are connected to verification of the job setup, maybe 5S if we have in our organization total preventive maintenance, level 1 done by the operators, or first article inspection, or maybe any other. But generally, if this is required on the shop floor, we have to have those records, yes? And this actually, which I mentioned, like first these records after inspection or verification of the job setup or error-proofing devices, this is a must. This is the first thing what I would look for when I will be on the shop floor, yeah? So pay attention that you in your organization, you have it, yes? Any other idea, Chris?
Number 3 would be when a team doesn't understand the procedures they're supposed to follow. So it's in 2 parts, and I'll address this point number 3 in 2 ways. One is that the information is clear, but they don't follow the information at all. They're not following A, B, C, D to get safety, quality, and efficiency. Or worse, when procedures aren't aligned. So what's actually happening on the shop floor. So the operator is actually doing the right thing, but the procedure says something completely different. So it can be both ways, and we can see both ways.
Yes. Okay, another red flag, not only connected to this documentation, like we said, both can be connected to the availability of different measuring tools, which must be present. Otherwise, we will not prove and release our process. With measuring tools, we have calibration connected, yes. But with calibration, or generally with measuring tools, also MSA is connected. However, this will not be present on the shop floor. But me as an auditor, I will always ask about MSA for those measuring tools when I will be auditing engineering, for instance, who might be responsible for MSA. But let's also remember that error-proofing devices must be under control, yes. Master samples, boundary samples, yes. They can be also called red rabbits, yes. You mentioned about competencies and operators. This is also something what can be a red flag if this is not updated, yes. How do we fix that? So first, I have on my mind that an internal audit is always a great tool to verify if we meet the requirements, yes. So I'm not talking only about verifying documents, which of course is one of the auditing method, but also just to be on the shop floor, yes, be present. We can maybe identify some gaps, which we will cover, yes. One client of mine used layered process audits, and LPA was actually a great tool because they're not that complicated. Yes, they're quite easy to verify if we are working according to the rules which were defined on the workstation. And in that case, what I'm thinking now, one operation was skipped. And now imagine, what would happen if skipping the operation would happen during the customer audit? I'm putting here 3 dots. Okay, so let's maybe talk about the documentation in terms of QMS, because this is also important, not only this that they are present on the shop floor. So, Chris, what makes documentation truly audit ready?
Yeah, it's not about having a 200-page manual. And when you visit suppliers or organizations, now, most of my experience, I've been the customer, so I'm audited in that regard. Not as a first party or second party auditor, more from the customer view. So it's not about having a huge manual, great QMS with all the documentation. What's it for, Agata? I think maybe we can talk about traceability, if you'd like to talk about that.
Mm-hmm. So general traceability, every document must have their own history, clarity, and version control. Especially if we know that documents also can change. When I was managing the QMS, I had the version control on SharePoint, or also I have stored older version, obsolete version in a specially created folder for this. Because sometimes during the audit, when I was not confident that someone really did the change to the document, I was just taking this obsolete version. But this was really a situation when I had the time to audit, yes. Normally, when I'm auditing my customers, I'm not doing this because this is too much time. I need to really be convinced that something very bad is happening to do such a small things to verify if this is really meeting the requirements. But what I would advise to our listeners that every document should answer these questions. What is it for? Yes. Who owns this document? And is it current? Yes. Available for the people? Are the people trained? And what will happen in 1 year? Will the people remember still the content? Maybe for very, I will call them strategic documents, it's worth to remind to the people, like for instance, handling non-conforming goods or maybe working with special characteristics, yes?
Yes, and keep a clean master document list. This is an auditor's friend and an internal auditor's friend, as well as the QMS manager or owner. One team that we trained as part of Qualitywise had 60 procedures, but 13 were obsolete. This is one of our observations. Straight away, we could see that against the master document list. We built them a simple document tracker to avoid future or silly mistakes or problems when you get non-conformities out of nowhere just because of document management and revision control. According to even ISO 9001 requirements about document management, you need to have revision control, you need to review your procedures, and you need to keep them up to date and review them on a periodic notice, usually around about 1 year is the requirement.
Mm-hmm. So now maybe would be worth just to simply standardize the version control, maybe use footer versioning or signature blocks, or maybe ensure electronic files match physical records. Discrepancy between digital and printed copies, are there any? This might be really low-hanging fruit during the audit again. I would say no, we can't have such discrepancies, yes? So make sure, because I understand that there may be a lot of documents on the shop floor. It might be very difficult, to control all of them. But unfortunately, even one can rise a nonconformity for us. Okay, so let's now talk about trainings, maybe, how we can prepare your team to interact with auditors, yes, from the customer side. A critical part of audit readiness is actually training the team for auditor interaction. In many cases, even when I was still employed in some organization, it was said, don't talk too much. Never answer if you are not asked about specific things. What do you think about this, Christopher?
I think it's an interesting technique. And when I was trained for the Japanese way of auditing, especially in the OEM, silence is great because people tend to talk because it's awkward. And when there's a deliberate gap, people will keep telling and keep telling and keep telling. That's not a bad thing, but to give you some tips, I think it's not about memorizing the answers, because if you memorize an answer, as I mentioned earlier in the podcast, if I probe that question, or you as an auditor probe that question, they can't have an answer, they don't know. And there's nothing worse to us as auditors when someone doesn't know. So it's about being authentic and clear and concise. We teach the 3 C's here at Qualitywise, which means calm, take your time, think about your answers before you give them. Be concise, do not overshare. Try and get used to not oversharing, because it can get you into a lot of knots and wrong information. And be correct. Say what you know. It's okay to say, I don't know, I'll go away and check. And that's the most important thing, I think.
Yes, it is important. And actually, I never expect that someone will tell me from memory how he is working. Of course, I'm expecting that will tell me this how it's working, but I always hope that without saying from my side, this person, the auditee, will take the working document where the steps of the process are simply defined. Yes. But the technique don't say too much. I would say could be very good if our quality approach, quality culture is not that nature. We know that we struggle with many issues. We don't have stable processes. We are doing firefighting. Yes, this may help, honestly. Yes, but always you need to answer to the question, to the object of the question. Yes, and here the precision is a must. But now when I'm thinking about this, I must tell you that we shall appreciate more that we have internal audits in our organizations. If you only remember one thing from today, this is what I'm going to say. This will make you more calm and confident during customer audits. So treat your internal audits as a customer would come and do this audit for you. Customers are demanding. Yes, they're actually verifying this, what is happening at the supplier, because they need to keep their business running without any disturbances. Yes, they don't want to have complaints in the future. So they are demanding simply, and we scare when they are coming. Why not take seriously our internal audits? Sometimes we may think it's only internal audit. Yes, we can negotiate if we will have nonconformity or not, because I will do correction and you see the nonconformity is deleted, yes? But no, let's make it professional, yes? Do not live in a comfort that it is only an internal audit and the consequences of nonconformity will not be that big, yes? Because this may come to you when you will have a customer audit or even third-party audit. Will you agree, Chris?
I agree. Completely. With such internal audits, you build team memory, so they're used to feeling that way from a customer perspective, on what to expect during external customer audits. People also know how to answer and what the flow is, the tact of the actual interview session when you're actually speaking to the people in the supplier. So our advice is be more demanding during the internal audit, be stricter if you can, think about the worst case, what the customer asks. And I was on an audit recently at one of the suppliers for an OEM, and that supplier, I asked them, did you find a problem during your internal audit? And the answer was yes. And I said, well, what are you doing about it? And they said, oh, well, we found it only internally. Just to go back on that point that you said earlier, Agata, they knew about the problem and they did nothing about the problem, which is worse than knowing about it and having a plan. Because if you've got the plan, the customer and the IATF auditors will be happier and more confident that you're being transparent and honest.
Mm-hmm. So I can say not only, please remember, if you would like to learn from us how to conduct such an internal audit based on ISO 9001 or IATF 16949 or VDA 6.3, whether your customer uses any specific approach, Qualitywise is here for you. And we give practical feedback, which will prepare you for the customer audit. So let's wrap up. Chris, what would you say?
Yeah, I would say know what auditors really want and the audit criteria. So what is the scope of the audit and what do they want to see? Address common red flags early, as we've discussed earlier in this podcast. Sources of red flags, documentation records, and so on. What's actually on the shop floor of the offices, where's the differences. Organize your documentation clearly. It's not just about having one big book with all the information. It's about in all areas that they understand their procedures that are applicable to their departments. Train your people on what is expected during the audit so they don't feel not prepared to what's about to be asked by the customer or by the certification body. And run internal audits like dress rehearsals, practice. And there was a great supplier that I worked with in the past, a Japanese harness manufacturer, and they had a customer audit called Are You Ready Audits? And I thought that was quite powerful and really useful. So And we've got something great to help you get started. Download our free customer audit preparation cheat sheet, a printable PDF with all the essentials that we have highlighted today and more. Our book on audit readiness training at qualitywise.pl. You'll work directly with us.
Thank you for listening to Specifically About Quality, a podcast by Qualitywise. If you found today's episode valuable, consider subscribing, commenting, and sharing it with colleagues who care about quality as much as you do. Until next time, stay focused, stay consistent, and keep rising the standard.